Hey everyone, so today we're going to be making this sound. It's a sound that you hear in, I'd say, mostly dubstep and Moombah tone or Moombah core or whatever, what have you. I don't even know how to keep up with the genres anymore. But, you know, it's a sound that you hear in basically bass-heavy music, even though it's not a bassy synth, it's more of a lead. So it's really simple to make, and let's do it. Alright, so first thing you are going to do is open up a combinator in Reason. Now, if you're not using Reason, you can probably still follow this tutorial, but just try and use what I say and adapt it to whatever software you're using. Alright, so inside this combinator, we're going to use a Thor synthesizer. So go to Instruments and create a Thor. Here you have it, your Thor synth. And you're going to click your Show Programmer to open it up so we can take a look at this Thor. Alright. Now, the first step towards making the synth is to make sure you are using the Init Patch, as you can see up here. If it says something else like Epic Poly or something else, you're doing the wrong thing. So what you need to do is right-click and click onto Reset Device, and that's going to turn it into an Initial Patch or Init Patch, and that way you're ready to kind of start it off. So let's take a look at this synth as it's set up. What we have already for us an analog oscillator on the sawtooth form, and the octave is set at 4. We're going to leave it just like that. That's perfect for the synth we're making. Now, this synth is already connected to this low-pass ladder filter, and we're just going to turn the frequency all the way up on it. We're not going to touch anything else in the frequency. Now, if we go down to the amp envelope, we're going to make sure that we have this sustain all the way up so that when we hit the note, it sustains as long as we're holding down on the keyboard. We're not going to have any release. We're not going to really mess with anything else down here. Now let's go to this shaper. This shaper is connected to this filter, and this is basically an additional. It's kind of an overdrive or a distortion, a hard clipper. And we're going to change it from soft clip to hard clip by clicking down on the arrow one time, and we're going to bring that drive to, I'd say, we can leave it maybe 41 if you want to bring it up a little bit, but that's basically how we want it. Actually, no, let's take it down a little bit. I'd say 27. We don't need much hard clip going on this synth. It's just going to add a little bit of brightness. All right, so let's head over to the chorus up here and let's widen this synth up a bit, because if you listen to it as we have it now, it kind of just sounds like an initial sawtooth. So let's open up this chorus by turning it on over here, and let's bring the wetness up to 74, so it's a bit past 50% in wetness. And let's bring the amount to exactly 50% by having it around 64. And we'll bring that rate down because we want a really slow rate on this chorus so that it takes a while for it to restart the rate. And that way we get a really wide sounding synth without it sounding super distorted or kind of strange. Alright, so yeah, that rate we had at 0.26 hertz or somewhere around there. If I tell you guys to do something, you generally can do a number close to the number I tell you. I'll tell you specifically if you have to do an exact number, if it's really important that you do the exact amount that I did. Alright, so let's keep moving on. The next step is to make the synth kind of have that drifty, lasery sound to it, because if you hear it now, it sounds just still straight. Kind of like a cheesy 80s synth or something like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down to our source, and we are going to select mod envelope, which is this guy over here. And we are going to have the destination be our oscillator 1 pitch. So that means that this mod envelope is going to be affecting the pitch of our analog oscillator. Let's bring the amount to 66 or somewhere around there. Let's see. Oh, sorry. Got it to 65. That's close enough. And we are going to head over to our attack. We want our attack to be at 9 milliseconds. This is specific. I'd actually do this. I'd want you guys to have it at 9 milliseconds if you want the sound to sound exactly like mine. Now our decay, we're going to have at about 6 seconds. So let's take this up. And 6.24 is fine. Now if you want to get really specific and you can't get on that exact number, just hit down the shift key on your keyboard and you can do more specific choosing. I got it down to exactly 6.01, which is what I wanted. Alright, so let's take another listen. This is what we have before we add any reverb or EQing. Sounds good, but it sounds still a little too preset-y, or I should say not affected enough. So let's go ahead and start on those effects. The first effect I'd like to create is the RV7000 Advanced Reverb. And make sure that it says, once again, Initial Patch on it. We don't want any other reverb. So if it doesn't, right-click on it and click Reset Device. Alright, So let's take the dry wetness and let's bring it down. We want it at only about maybe 20. And we want to keep the high EQ the same, the damp the same, but let's bring that decay down to about 19 because we don't want a long reverb. We want it to be pretty short. We don't want a long tail end on this reverb. Now let's click on E. You're going to open up this synth by hitting this little arrow here, or not the synth, this reverb. You're going to click this little arrow and you're going to click on EQ because I want to mess with the EQ of this reverb. You have to select this button right here that says EQ enable for it to work. So let's bring this gain all the way down, the low gain, like so. It'll bring it down to negative 18 dB. And then with this knob, let's move the frequency all the way to the right. So we're really cutting out the low end over here. Now let's bring out the high end a little bit by bringing it up, I'd say maybe 7.1 dB. And let's bring the frequency all the way over, not all the way over, let's bring the frequency over so it's right about on the side of 8, maybe 7.246 hertz. That looks about right. And let's bring that Q in a little bit by moving it up to 4.8 to get it a little bit skinnier. Let's take one more listen. This is the sound with reverb now. You know, it's not wide enough, and so what we're going to do is we're going to add an additional chorus or unison to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to right-click on that reverb, and we're going to go to Studio Effects and click on UN16 Unison. Now we're going to want to keep that wetness all the way up, but let's bring that detune up quite a bit. Let's have it at around 76, so it's a little past halfway, and let's leave it at 16 voices. All right, let's listen one more time. There we go. That's sounding almost right. I just want to bring out a little bit more brightness, and we're done with the synth. So let's right-click on that unison, go to Studio Effects, go to M-Class Equalizer, and let's select the Param 2 to open up this parameter of the frequency band that we're going to be affecting. Let's bring the frequency all the way up, and let's bring the gain, I'd say, to about maybe 9 dB. No, maybe a little bit less. Let's do 7.4 dB. And let's bring that Q all the way to the left, so that it's at 1. So it's a really a really slow curve up to get those high frequencies up there. And you really want to just bring those highs out. And let's take a listen. This should be our final product. Yeah, it sounds pretty good. So now if you want to experiment with this sound, a really cool thing to do is just take this hard clip drive and move it all the way over to the right, and it sounds kind of like a square waveform now. And basically the reason it sounds like a square, even though we have a sawtooth waveform over here as we selected, what this hard clip is doing is it's clipping the signal. So it's really pushing the waveform that we have so far up that we're clipping off the edge of the waveform. So as you can see, a sawtooth waveform kind of looks like a V. But when we clip it hard enough, we're cutting off the top of that V, and it ends up looking more like a square. And that's why we're actually turning a sawtooth into a square waveform, and that's why you get that sound. But I actually prefer it kind of more like the original sound, where it sounds more like a sawtooth. But yeah, I'd really, if you want to experiment with this and make this sound a little bit more your own, really move around these different oscillator types. Oops. And see what you fancy. I would probably want this to be a mono retrig synth, just because you're not going to want to layer the synth, but you could also mess around with that and have fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I got many more on the way, so be sure to subscribe and come back. And also let me know what synths or tutorials you want to do. I think the next tutorial we'll be doing is on mixing and how to make a cleaner mix. Alright guys.